January 1st, 1945, 0712 a.m., Aachen Front, Western Germany. The first sunrise of the new year creeps over a wasteland of shattered forests and frozen trenches. Snow clings to burned-out tanks like ash. The temperature hangs just below freezing, and a thin mist curls over the ground like smoke from a dying battlefield. Inside a camouflaged revetment carved from the forest, Lieutenant Karl-Heinz Adler tightens his scarf beneath his flight helmet. Frost clings to the edges of his goggles. His breath billows into the icy morning air as he stares at the aircraft in front of him, a Messerschmitt Bf-109 G-14, its yellow nose half hidden beneath branches for concealment. The mechanic hands him a clipboard. Engine preheated, guns loaded, fuel to 90%. Adler signs his name but hesitates before handing the clipboard back. He glances toward the trees, where dozens of other fighters sit in silence. FW-190s, Bf-109s, even a few battered Ju-8s. Crews whisper, commanders pace, no one speaks above a murmur. Because this morning, the Luftwaffe is preparing something it hasn't attempted in years, a massive coordinated strike. Operation Bodenplatte, a desperate New Year's Day counterblow intended to annihilate Allied air power on the Western Front. The order came the night before. The secrecy was absolute. Even the squadron commanders didn't receive their target lists until hours before takeoff. Adler remembers the briefing, the paper still trembling slightly in his hands. We hit Allied airfields from Belgium to the Netherlands. Surprise is vital. Do not turn back. Do not break radio silence. Today, the Luftwaffe flies to save Germany. Those last words were spoken softly, almost reverently. But no one in the room believed them. Engines in the cold. A flare arcs into the air, the signal. One by one, aircraft come to life. Engines cough, sputter, then roar. Black smoke rolls downwind across the snow. Adler climbs into his cockpit, boots slipping slightly on the frosted wing. He settles into the seat, feeling the vibration of the Daimler-Benz engine beneath him. His gloved hands tremble, not from cold, but from something deeper. 25 pilots in his Gruppe, 15 are replacements, 5 have never seen combat, and nearly all lack night or low-light flying experience. This mission isn't bravery, it's necessity born of desperation. Adler closes the canopy, the glass fogs instantly, lifting into the gray. The squadron taxis from the trees, wheels crunching over ice. Snow flurries drift down as the morning fog thickens, swallowing the forest. At the runway's end, the lead pilot, Oberstleutnant Prüfer, holds up one gloved hand. Adler's heart thumps against his ribs. Prüfer drops his arm. The throttle slams forward. The Bf-109 surges violently down the strip, tail lifting, wheels bouncing on frozen ruts before finally breaking free from the earth. And suddenly they are airborne, rising into a sky as colorless as steel. Below them, more fighters lift in close formation. The noise blends into a single, monstrous roar. The Luftwaffe, what little remains of it, climbs together like a wounded beast making one final charge. Adler checks his instruments, carburetor pressure steady, ammunition full, oil temperature rising. Wilson, his wingman, speaks softly over the intercom. Hard to believe it's New Year's Day. Adler doesn't respond. Because ahead, punching through the fog like shadows with teeth, he sees the full scale of the operation. Hundreds of aircraft forming up, squadrons upon squadrons, their silhouettes barely visible in the dim morning light. Bf-109s, FW-190 A-8s, fighter bombers with underbelly cannons, night fighters stripped of radar sets to save weight. It is the largest single Luftwaffe formation he has ever seen, and likely the last he will ever see. Into enemy skies. As the sun struggles to rise, the formation banks west toward Belgium. Beneath the clouds lies the frozen, battle-scarred landscape of the Ardennes, still echoing with the dying fury of the Battle of the Bulge. But the pilots do not look down. Every eye is fixed on the horizon. Adler feels a bead of sweat run down his spine despite the cold. If we fail, he doesn't finish the thought. Wilson does it for him. Then Germany's skies belong to the Allies forever. The squadron pushes on in absolute radio silence. Every second now draws them nearer to their targets. Allied airfields packed with Typhoons, Tempests, Mustangs, Lightnings, planes that have dominated German skies for months. And deep inside, Adler knows the truth. Bodenplatte is a gamble the Luftwaffe cannot afford to lose, but it is also one they cannot possibly win. Still, the horizon glows brighter. Engines thunder in tight formation. The German fighters dive to treetop level to avoid Allied radar. Branches blur beneath their wings. This is it. The last great strike of the Luftwaffe is underway. January 1st, 1945, 0803 a.m. over the Ardennes Forest, Western Front. The Bf-109 shudders as Adler drops to less than 50 feet above the ground. The landscape blurs, snow-covered pines whipping past like dark pillars. The Luftwaffe formation slices through the winter haze at treetop level, engines thundering low enough to shake snow from branches. Every pilot feels it now. This is where they live or die. Radio silence continues. Not a single word. Only the screaming wind against their canopies. Ahead, the Ardennes rolls out like a white ocean. Smoke from the last clashes of the Bulge curls upward in thin gray tendrils. Burned out Panthers, shattered Shermans, frozen corpses half buried in snow. For a moment, Adler wonders how many of those tanks were destroyed by pilots like him, and how many were left to rust because Germany no longer had fuel, parts, or trained crews. But there is no time to dwell. The tree line ends suddenly, giving way to open farmland. Prüfer, the group commander, raises one wing tip. Prepare to break formation. The targets are close, navigating the fog. The morning fog grows thicker, a blessing and a curse. It hides the Luftwaffe approach from Allied observers, but it also disorients inexperienced pilots. Several aircraft wobble dangerously as the horizon vanishes into a smear of gray. Adler checks his compass. The needle dances erratically. Wilson's voice cracks in his headset, barely above a whisper. "Carl, if this fog gets any thicker, we'll be flying blind." Adler presses his lips together. Stay close, no matter what. But he already knows what's happening behind them. Less experienced pilots are drifting, losing cohesion, some accidentally climbing above the mist, exposed to Allied radar and patrols. The operation's precision is fracturing minute by minute. Below the radar, the formation skims so low that frost sprays from the fields as their propellers rip the freezing air. Farmhouses flash past as blurs. A startled farmer dives into the snow as dozens of fighters streak overhead. At this altitude, one mistake means death. A single tree trunk, a frozen hill, an unexpected building. Still, they push on. Suddenly, Prüfer signals again, wagging wings sharply. They have reached Belgian airspace. The first target is close, Ash Airfield, home to the U.S. 9th and 10th Tactical Air Force Squadrons. Mustangs, Thunderbolts, camouflaged hangars and dispersal areas, all soon to be under the gun. Adler feels his pulse quicken. The moment of contact. The fog ahead thins, and then, through the lifting mist, Adler sees it. Rows of aircraft parked wingtip to wingtip, silver shapes gleaming in the cold morning light. Dozens of P-47 Thunderbolts, several P-51 Mustangs, a few Lightnings, fuel trucks, ammunition crates, mechanics moving between revetments, unaware of the storm about to fall upon them. The airfield looks peaceful, still, almost serene, but Adler knows better. Prüfer pulls up slightly, the signal to attack. Adler pushes the throttle forward. His Bf-109 surges ahead. The Luftwaffe formation fans out like a bomb, bursting in midair. FW-190s peeling left, Bf-109s diving right, each flight aiming at designated clusters of American aircraft. The screaming of engines becomes deafening. The ground rushes upward. The wind howls like a living thing. Adler narrows his eyes, thumb hovering over the trigger. He can see American mechanics now, faces lifting skyward in confusion. One mechanic drops his wrench, another reaches for an alarm bell. A third freezes, mouth open, realizing the Luftwaffe is coming for them. Then the first shots ring out. Tracer fire erupts from dozens of German fighters as they streak across the field, shredding the first row of Thunderbolts. Aircraft erupt into flames, fuel tanks bursting like fireworks, smoke billows upward. Allied soldiers scatter. The airfield descends into chaos. Adler roars over the runway, strafing a cluster of Mustangs. Bullets stitch across their wings, tearing fabric, ricocheting off engines, igniting fuel lines. A Mustang explodes. The blast rocks Adler's aircraft. In his headset, Wilson's voice cracks with adrenaline. "Multiple hits, Carl, we got one!" But there is no time to celebrate. A new sound rises through the smoke. A deep, throaty roar from the far end of the airfield. American fighters, revving, scrambling. The Luftwaffe has seconds before the defenders take off. Adler pulls up sharply, banking toward a formation of fuel trucks. Flames lick at the edges of the runway. Smoke stings his eyes. This is no longer a mission. It is a race against time, and the clock is almost out. January 1st, 1945, 08:21 a.m., Ash Airfield, Belgium. The sky over Ash erupts into a swirling nightmare of smoke trails, tracer fire, and burning aircraft. German fighters tear across the airfield in waves, guns flashing as Allied ground crews sprint for cover. Adler's Bf-109 screams past a line of fuel drums. Boom! The explosion punches a hole of fire into the frozen landscape. But even as destruction spreads across the field, Adler feels something shift. an instinct honed by hundreds of hours in combat. They are no longer alone in the sky. The radio crackles, not German, but English, loud and angry. Red flight, scramble, scramble now. Blue flight, airborne immediately. Adler's stomach drops. The Americans are already taking off. The 352nd Fighter Group wakes up. At the far end of the airfield, 3 P-51 Mustangs thunder down the runway. Their pilots, veterans of long escort missions over Germany, react with lightning speed. The first Mustang lifts off, then another, then a third. They don't climb, they don't circle, they roll straight into combat, gear still retracting, engines howling as they cut through the smoke. Wilson shouts into Adler's headset. "Carl, Mustangs at R6, they're already airborne." Adler looks back and time seems to slow. 3 Mustangs, painted blue-nosed, slicing through the haze like steel blades. The 352nd Fighter Group, the legendary blue-nosed bastards of Bodny. Elite pilots, fast aircraft, perfect timing. And the Luftwaffe has stumbled into them head first. Chaos in the sky. A blue-nosed Mustang flashes past Adler's canopy, guns blazing. The tracers tear into a FW-190 ahead of him, shredding its tail. The German fighter spirals downward, trailing smoke. Adler rolls hard right. "Wilson, stay close, don't climb, stay low!" Wilson tries, but a P-51 is already diving on him. Adler watches in horror as his wingman jerks the stick left, right, too slow, too green, too late. A burst of .50 caliber fire rips through Wilson's fuselage. His aircraft erupts in flame. "Carl, The transmission cuts. His Bf-109 plunges into the snow, exploding in a pillar of black smoke. Adler slams his fist into the side of his cockpit. "Scheisse!" But he has no time to mourn. A Mustang swings toward him, guns lighting up the sky. Survival by inches. Adler yanks his Bf-109 into a violent barrel roll. The G-forces crush him into the seat, blood rushing from his limbs. The Mustang overshoots, barely missing his tail. Adler dives toward the tree line. Tree branches whip past just meters below his wings. The Mustang dives after him. Adler can almost feel the American pilot's certainty. He knows what these men think of German fighters in early 1945. Desperate, inferior, running out of everything. But Adler still has skill. He still has instinct. And above all, he still has a mission to complete. He cuts the throttle, letting the Mustang close in too fast. Then, at the last possible second, he pulls into a steep climbing turn. The Mustang flashes beneath him, overshooting by meters. Adler rolls inverted and dives after him. For a heartbeat, he sees the American pilot's helmet through the canopy. He squeezes the trigger. Nothing. He's out of ammunition. His heart sinks. Verdammt, I can't fight, not like this. He pulls up sharply, smoke streaming behind a damaged exhaust stack. The trap closes. Above him, the fog finally lifts, revealing the full scale of the catastrophe. American fighters, dozens of them, are pouring into the sky. P-47 Thunderbolts, more Mustangs, even a few Lightnings. It's no longer an airfield under attack. It's an Allied hornet's nest fully unleashed. German pilots scatter in every direction, some diving low, others climbing desperately, many spiraling in flames. The sky becomes a graveyard of black smoke and falling wreckage. Adler swallows hard. Operation Bodenplatte is collapsing all around him. But there is still one chance left, escape to the east, back into the fog. He banks hard, the Bf-109 shudders but responds. He aims for the tree line, for the only cover left. Behind him, Mustangs give chase. Wilson is gone, his group is broken, his ammunition exhausted. And Adler knows with chilling clarity, the Luftwaffe's final strike is turning into its final disaster. January 1st, 1945, 08:37 a.m. east of Asch Airfield, Belgium. Adler blasts over the frozen fields, skimming barely meters above the ground. The Bf-109's engine coughs and sputters, its supercharger damaged, oil pressure flickering dangerously low, smoke trails thinly from the exhaust. Every vibration feels like the engine preparing to seize. Behind him, the Mustangs fan out like predators closing on a wounded animal. 3 of them, blue noses gleaming, guns ready. Adler's heart hammers. The cold air stabs at his lungs. His gloved fingers cling white-knuckled to the stick. He whispers to himself, "Just get to the trees. Just make the forest. A chase through hell." The Mustangs close in. Gunfire flashes past his canopy, bright white streaks ripping through the air. Snow erupts behind him in exploding plumes. Adler banks left sharply, wings brushing the tops of frozen hedges. A P-51 follows, cutting the corner. Too fast, too tight. Adler yanks the stick back. Tree branches scrape the underside of his fuselage. The Mustang's wing clips a treetop, just slightly, but enough. The American fighter cartwheels across the ground in a violent explosion of metal and flame. Adler doesn't look back. He can't. Engine failing. The remaining Mustangs hold formation on his tail. Experienced, calm, professional. They're not rushing the kill, just waiting for his engine to finish dying. And it's close. Oil temperature spikes, RPM flickers, the engine coughs again, louder this time. Adler feels the Bf-109 slowing under him, the aircraft beginning to shudder. Come on, not yet, hold together. Another Mustang fires, tracers slicing through the right wing, shredding aileron fabric. The Bf-109 lurches violently. A desperate gambit. Ahead, the fog, the same fog that shielded their approach. Now it might be Adler's only chance to live. He dives into it. Visibility drops to nothing. The world becomes a swirling gray void. The Mustangs hesitate, only for a moment, but it's enough. They pull up slightly, unwilling to risk plowing into a hill or treetop at 300 miles per hour. Adler disappears into the mist. He cuts throttle and side slips, letting altitude bleed quickly. The Bf-109 sinks lower and lower until he can see vague shapes of treetops beneath the clouds. He stays there, barely 20 feet above the forest, flying blind. Behind him, the Mustangs try to follow. One enters the cloud layer, then immediately breaks off. They can't pursue without dying. Temporary escape. For the first time in minutes, Adler hears nothing but the labored growl of his engine. But the relief is short-lived. Fuel is low, the engine is failing, he's many miles behind Allied lines. The Bf-109 coughs again, a deep rattling sound. Adler clenches his teeth. He scans the horizon through the thinning mist, searching for anything. A road, a field, a place to land. And then, as the fog finally begins to lift, he sees it. A narrow strip of frozen farmland long enough for a forced landing, but barely. He banks toward it. The landing. The ground rushes up, he cuts the engine, silence fills the cockpit. He lowers the landing gear, only one wheel locks down. Scheisse! He levels the plane, lines up with the field. There's no time to think, no time to fix anything. The Bf-109 touches down, the right wheel collapses, and the aircraft skids sideways, plowing through snow, snapping a fence, spinning violently. Adler's head slams against the canopy frame. Glass cracks, metal screams. Finally, the aircraft lurches to a stop. Smoke drifts from the cowling. Snow floats quietly through the shattered canopy. Adler blinks slowly. He's alive. Somehow, impossibly alive. He fumbles with his harness, forces the canopy open, and drags himself into the freezing air. His breath shakes, his legs wobble. In the distance, the faint rumble of Allied patrol vehicles. He has minutes, maybe less. He stumbles toward the tree line, boots crunching in deep, fresh snow. Behind him, his broken Bf-109 steams quietly. The failure revealed. Far behind, over ash, the battle is ending. Smoke fills the sky. German fighters fall burning across Belgium. Allied fighters circle the wreckage like hawks. The airfield is battered, but operational. Operation Bodenplatte, the Luftwaffe's final gamble, has already failed. And Adler, staggering through the freezing forest, knows it with terrible clarity. The attack meant to save Germany's air force has instead destroyed it.